Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the show. Appreciate you guys tuning in this week. We've got a killer episode lined up for you with Weston Homa of Pennsylvania. Weston is an awesome dude. I've really enjoyed his content on Instagram and just staying along on his journeys. Really was just looking forward to picking this guy's mindset on you going from Pennsylvania and getting into doing Western hunts and everything in between. The dude just gets after it in life and in hunting, and was super stoked to have him join us. So we get into some great conversation on, how he's gotten into doing these hunts, what's going in, preparation wise and mindset. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's a killer episode. First of all, let's give a huge thanks to our sponsors that make this happen: Lone Wolf Custom Gear, Osseo Gear, Painted Arrow Outdoors, and Timberwolf Supply Company. Guys, hope you're following each and every one of these companies. Really appreciate everything they're doing for us. If you're looking to get anything from Painted Arrow, use code RUNNGUN15 to save 15% at checkout. Here next week, I will actually be at the Columbus, Ohio show. So come see me. I'll be at the Osseo booth, and Logan will actually be there with me too. So he'll be over at the Lone Wolf booth with all the boys. Go holler at him and get some show specials. I know they're going to have some deals going on too. So look forward to catching up with you all there. I'll have some stickers, and I was talking to Logan. We should have some t-shirts. We're really hoping that they'll be done by then. So yeah, if you're interested in getting one, shoot me a PM and we'll get you one saved and get your shirt size. So guys, another thing I really wanted to touch on before we get into today's episode, if you guys enjoy the podcast, please do me a favor by sharing it. Put it out there on your stories if you guys enjoy an episode. It means the world to us. It's really, something free, something you can do to help us out, or shoot us a review on Spotify or Apple. Really appreciate it. Let's get into the quote of the week. This one's from Teddy Roosevelt. I really like this one, and I think it applies a lot to this podcast. So let's get into it. Teddy says, "It is hard to fail, but it is worse to have never tried to succeed." I hope that hits you. Hope you guys like that one. And it is absolutely the truth. If you're not trying, what are you doing? Come on. Put everything into it and don't half-ass it. All right. That being said, let's get into today's episode with Weston Homa. So what's going on, brother? I appreciate you joining me this evening.
Yeah, not much, man. Glad to be here. Glad we finally got a chance to do it. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, how's everything going?
Going good. Doing a lot of spring scouting, doing a lot of planning for my Western hunts, and then obviously just training hard for those. And I've dove down the marathon and ultra marathon rabbit hole too.
Oh boy.
So a lot of training for that.
That's cool.
All these things, keep me busy.
How'd you really get into that? I mean, I know obviously you're into fitness. If anybody follows your page, I think they know, you get after it in the gym. And I mean, how did you really venture into that? Have you always worked out, or are you just more getting into that because of the Western hunting stuff?
So I started lifting in high school, into college, not anything super disciplined, just wanted to go throw weights around,
Yeah.
Never really ran at all. Did not consider myself a runner. I started running when I first started preparing to go out west about 4 years ago. Back in 2020 was the first time. So that's when I started running a little bit, because the first hunt I ever did was an elk hunt in Colorado, just my dad and I.
Okay.
Knew we wanted to backpack in and do all that, and I seen the Western hunters all in a lot better shape, and I'm like, okay, I'll just start running here a little bit, and that's kind of how it started.
What year was this? How long ago was this?
So this was right before COVID, because I remember as I started running, again, I am not a runner at all.
Oh, me neither. If you see me running, there's a problem.
My half-mile run to the gym, was a death march.
Yeah.
And then I try to, once a week, on a Sunday, and this is kind of what I still do, but much further, push it longer. And I remember this 3-mile little trail loop around where I worked at the time was I don't know if I'm going to make it, when I'd go do that. But that time frame, beginning of 2020, I signed up for my first half marathon, but then
Okay.
COVID hit and it canceled it.
I
And
got
I
you.
remember being so stressed out. I'm like, tell my buddy at work, like, dude, I don't know, like I'm gonna die. And he was like, dude, just walk, like you're not gonna die.
Yeah.
But COVID canceled races for like a year or two, and I just kept running, dude. It was helping me get ready for out west. I really found a passion for it. I found a lot of growth in the days I didn't feel like running, but still ran anyway.
Yeah.
And I really just got addicted to, and I still am, just to getting better every day. So then that turned into the first race I then did was in 2022 when COVID kind of went away, was a marathon. And then since then, I guess the last really just a couple years then,
Yeah.
I've done 3-4 marathons,
I
3
think
ultra
running
marathons.
is one of the coolest things as far as like, and I'm not a runner, but I'm just saying, for when I was like kind of running and like, it's one of the quickest ways to see progression. I feel like, cause you can,
Yeah.
once you get going, you're like, all right, that wasn't bad. All right. Now I'm going to push a little farther. Now I've not gotten into running 5 miles or anything like that. I'll be the first to say I'm more of a Stairmaster kind of guy, you know, if I'm training for a Western hunt, but, it is something that I kind of want to do just because I know how much I don't want to do it, you know, to just make myself. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those cool things, man. It's really cool to like kind of see the progression of it. And I realized really fast when I was elk hunting out west, like how much your endurance really plays. Like, because I had to run a mile to the truck and back just to get a spotting scope one time. So we spotted these bulls and we're like, oh shit. And my guide's like, my buddy's like, oh, the spotter's in the truck. Like, if you want to get it, you know, and I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. Yeah, I'll go, you know, whatever. So I hoof foot there and back, and I was so gassed. And I'm like, all right, well, and then, you know, we went after my elk that day and killed him too. So we did like 13 miles that day. It was nuts. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I really regretted not running. I'm going to be honest with you because it was freaking embarrassing. He's like,
It's,
damn, that took you long enough. I'm like, yeah, I'm a
it's,
flatlander. Give me a break.
it's really helped me for out there, not just in the physical sense. I mean, that's how I started with it,
Yeah.
but also like the mental side of things. And then it's also given me a ton of evidence of like, you can get better at things, like your inputs and outputs. So like,
Right.
again, I was not a runner at all. And now I'm a Boston qualifying marathoner, and I ran a 70 miler last year. I've won a couple local races, like an ultra and a regular marathon. I got first places, and then I'm running a 100 miler in August here. And this is all from 4 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
like it's crazy. Like,
That's intense,
and then I've totally just like been like, okay, like just adopting more of a growth mindset. Like,
Yeah.
things you can just, everything's a skill. You can just get better at things. It just takes probably a shit ton more work than you think.
Right.
And then that just kind of helped me. I've translated that into everything. And we implemented
That's awesome,
discipline
dude.
in a bunch of other ways. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. So before we get all into this, I want you to do just a little overview of yourself, man. Tell some of our listeners that might not know about you, a little background and like kind of how you got into hunting and where you're at today.
Yeah. So I'm from southwestern PA. Grew up hunting. Really typical like deer camp family. We'd always go for like first day rifle to deer camp. And I grew up hunting a lot of private. Like, I was fortunate enough, my dad had a few acres where it was enough to like bow hunt and get out there. So always hunted, always outdoorsy and stuff like that. But really, and we touched on it already, I've really taken to it more seriously the last 4 or 5 years once I started going out west. I felt like that is where my true passion like lies. That's something that I look forward to do every year. And after doing that, I've really translated like the work ethic that I've put in to start to become successful out there to now hunting public land whitetails here.
Yeah.
The running gun style. So I've done that the last couple years as well. On top of all that, like I said, training for those Western hunts, started running, kind of just kept running.
Yeah.
And
It goes hand in hand, man.
Yeah, and then now I'm just big in the ultra marathon and marathon world as well. So
Yeah.
I just those are the things I love to do. I love big adventure. I love finding different ways to challenge myself, and yeah, that's what I think about all the time.
What do you do for work? I know I think I caught a glimpse at like one of your reels that you had shared. Like you were, it looked like you were in an office space there. So
Yep, I um, I'm an engineer for an electrical utility company.
okay,
So yeah, office job on the computer. Sometimes I
poor
sit
guy. I'm
there.
sorry.
I know. I used to work. So I used to work like big, heavy civil highway construction
Okay.
as an engineer, but I was on site, and I found, I mean, the reality is, if you want to get better at hunting, you need time to hunt
Yeah,
and
and you need money
working
too. That's what
and
I mean.
money.
I've touched that on that plenty of
Yep,
times. Like, if you want to go out and hunt Western hunts, I mean, like you literally, really any hunting. I mean, you could go the same route for whitetails. I mean, you got to have time and money to go do what you want to do. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
But that old job, as much as I loved kind of the chaos some days of being on a job site and running around all the time, but if you're working through the weekends, man, and you're working crazy hours, and like I was on the move every year, like years I worked there, like
yeah,
if you don't have the time to hunt, like you're not going to be that good at
right,
hunting. So
yeah.
change jobs, still, yeah, the money thing's definitely part of it. I feel like guys don't talk about, especially if you're wanting to get out west. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not trying to make
but
it
yeah,
sound like a rich man sport, but it
no, it's an
absolutely like
investment.
it takes whatever,
Yeah.
anything that you're passionate about takes money. I mean,
Hmm.
but elk hunting is a little bit different. It does cost a good bit, and tags aren't cheap. You gotta have your shit dialed. You really do. It's one of those things like that's a part of the equation that people don't want to talk about. But I've already been planning mine, and I'm like, man, like Western is just a whole nother world as far as like your planning skills. Like you can't just on a whim just go out and pull an elk hunt like out of your butt. You got to have this plan for years.
I actually love that you're bringing this up because I talk to so many people. Like, I put myself out there more, and then people always ask me questions about hunting out west and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thing is like, are you buying points? Like, are
Yeah.
you like you have tags are only getting harder. You look at Colorado; they took away the over-the-counter archery elk tags. I have a whole Excel spreadsheet. I have points for every species, every state. Like, yeah, it invests money to
Yeah.
do
And it
that every
might take
year.
you
Like,
15 years to draw a tag in the right place. I mean,
right?
like I've got plenty of
Yeah,
friends. It's insane, man. And like
yeah,
I just wish somebody could have grabbed me like 5 years ago or 10 years ago and be like, put in points, like for the
yeah.
love of God, like shake me, like, Chris
You
Farley.
got to do it. You got, yeah. No, I definitely love the game. Like, if you want to play, you got to play the game. So
Yeah,
I got the points. I have my hunts planned for the next like 4 years. I feel like,
that's awesome. It's awesome, man.
yeah, but
And
it's
it gives you
definitely
something to look forward to too. Like I think
mhm.
that's one thing that I really took away from my Western hunting too, was like what it did to me as a person, as far as understanding like I need to have something to look forward to, right? Like to keep me motivated. Like as soon as I complete a good big goal that I've got, it's like, okay, well now you don't have any other big goals. Like, you start to slack off a little bit, not hitting the gym as much as I was before and all this and that. And then next thing you know, you gain 15 pounds, and then but yeah, it is, dude. Like I think having like the plans and stuff, it just helps keep you motivated and keep you going. Like when times aren't really that good.
Absolutely. It's like anything. Like, I remember the first marathon I ran across the finish line. It's cool for a little bit, but then you're just like,
Yeah. What's next?
need some, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the chase that we're after. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily just the finish line or the punch tag.
Yeah. Why don't you break down a little bit, your transfer into like, the public land hunting and like kind of what made you really want to get into that more? I know you touched on it a little bit before we started recording, but I kind of wanted to get pick your brain a little bit on that and see where that goes.
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up hunting a lot of private. Um, for me, though, hunting at the time, like we'd go out and hunt some public land when rifle season came in, but bow hunting, basically just my old man's property. It was a lot of just fixed ladder stands on a field edge and kind of like, the buck was coming out or he wasn't kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to grow up like with that opportunity and everything, but that's kind of all hunting really was. And truthfully, like I have so much more of a growth mindset now, but at the time, my mindset, especially towards hunting, was like not that great. I would always just call myself unlucky, and the deer were there, they weren't. Like never got down to scout, like never, just not good attitude. But then, just as I got older and matured, and and started hunting out west, I felt like that hunting gave me more control, like not being in a stand. Yeah. And I don't know, I just had so much more of a drive and a fire after I started doing that. So I said, I want to hunt public. Like I feel like I can do this. Killed a lot of deer growing up and stuff. It seems fun.
Yeah.
So been on that grind the last couple of years and quickly realized like it's not the same. Yeah. It's not. Let me think. It was 2022. Started doing a lot of scouting and running cameras. Threw a few sits in October. And then there was an 8-point running around my old man's property. And I went there one night. I think it was on Halloween. And I arrowed it. And then I was happy to get that buck. But I was like, I didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. Like I was happy, but I was like, no. Next year I'm committed. I'm going back to public. So 2023 rolls around, did a ton more scouting, and I really feel like this was the best thing for me to evolve as a hunter, because really forced me to like read sign better, get boots on the ground, huge investment of time, and I feel like my deer knowledge has grown 100x over the last couple of years versus the first 20 some years of my life. 2023 though, long story short, arrowed a great buck on, it was Friday, October 13th. I'll never forget, Friday the 13th.
It's my birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not, that buck was still alive though. I got him.
That's a bummer.
I got him in a staging area. I was only like one stick up in a tree. He was coming out where I hunt. It's a lot of hill country, a lot of cuts, power lines, things like that. I found a lot of the deer, well, more so the does would come out and feed in the wide open pretty much all through the evening and stuff, but the bucks might wait until dark.
Right.
But I've been able to find some of these staging areas where I've been able to get them right before last light, especially in like early October. So they'll come out, maybe stage, maybe if there's some acorns there or something. So it was perfect setup. And he was 20 yards. The only tree I could get into, I was one stick up. He had no idea I was there. Beautiful 8 for where I'm at on public.
Yeah.
And did not have a clear shot. Arrow deflected. I caught a little white hair on the ground. He was fine. He was still alive. But I beat myself up because after that, I went and hunted mule deer in Colorado and missed like some of the best times to chase whitetails. But I did get a bag of mule deer out there, which was awesome. But when I came back, that was like late October. Then late November, I was running around late season with the bow and ate the tag. And I was like really bummed out. But then it just kept me hungry, dude. Just kept me coming back for more. So
yeah, man. I have always said like you always learn a lot more from the hard years. I've had a few of them. I mean, this year was hard on me. I ended up killing one, but it was still like a huge learning year. Just really like persistence. I mean, I made a post
you did
about
get that buck pretty late. That was that in December?
Yeah, December 3rd.
Yeah, I remember.
I think somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've killed, dude, the funny thing is I've killed all my biggest deer in, maybe not all of them, but a majority of them in December. Like the first week of December to like the 10th or 11th. Like there's something magic about that time frame right there. I killed my biggest deer in Maryland. I killed like December 2nd. He was just checking a doe bedding area and threw a hanging hunt in this area and killed him right away. Like first light, just came swooping through this like little laurel patch. It was on an oak flat up top, and he was definitely just checking for does. It was loaded with does in there. Another one.
Be a sneaky good time of year.
It really is, dude. Like if you have a tag at that time, don't like sell yourself short. If you're on a deer, you'll kill him. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, man, this year was just like I feel like every time all through November, it was just like I hunted so hard and it was just bam, like one thing after another.
Mhm.
This buck's killed. This one's dead. This one's dead. This one's dead. I'm like, oh my God, like how is this possible? You know, but the resilience is like one of my favorite things. And I feel like my whole time bow hunting, like I've always had that happen where like you go through those hardships and then as long as you keep going, like good stuff's going to happen. Um, I don't know. It depends on where you're hunting at and like what you're doing, but you know,
Yeah.
every situation is different. But yeah, you learn a lot more from the hardships, man. And, you know, when you went through that, like, so now moving forward, like with this year and your public and stuff, what's your game plan? I mean, are you going to do a lot more, you know, off season scouting like right now?
So I ended that story. That was 2023. But then for 2024, I came back. Again, I hunted the West late season mule deer. I'm done doing that because I'm leaving during the whitetail rut. But I
Yeah.
came back and arrowed a buck um, down on that piece of public this year too. So it definitely drove me to just scout harder and work harder. And no, I think you like I don't. I'm hesitant to say like failure's good. Like learn from like I don't seek failure.
Yeah.
But I do remember listening to, like, I love this, an interview with Kobe Bryant before he died, and they asked him about failure, and he said, it's exciting. And they're
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? And he was like, it shows you exactly what you need to do to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So I take that with me with anything. I promise myself I'm punching every tag. Like, I'm not seeking it, but
Yeah.
anytime there's like something that doesn't go my way, it's like maybe the younger version of me would have just put his hands up and been like, unlucky. It was my bow. It was the deer's fault. It
Yeah.
was another hunter that pushed over
The
here.
blame game. It was my
No,
arrow. It was
dude.
my broadhead. It was,
No.
good leadership, man. You always just blame yourself because that's the only thing you can control.
Take ownership.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's right.
Because when you do, now you're in control.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, like, what was your biggest like takeaway? I mean, did you like not do as much scouting? Is that what it was, or did you feel like you had too much going on? Like, because I can imagine. I know when I did my elk hunt, like out west, it like messed me up in the early season for whitetail. Like, because my mind was just like, I came back mid season, or like 2 weeks into season here, and I just felt like I was off. Like I was not on my game. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. It's like I think that's an art that you kind of have to develop, is like going through and being dialed. You know what I mean? And I'm not there yet, but I try.
Yeah, I think sometimes my ambition gets ahead of my skill set. I
Yeah.
think so. I was spread myself a little too thin at the time.
Okay.
I definitely feel confident if I would have stuck around later October and not went and hunted mule deer, would have been able to get on a deer. But I do think I need to. I'm never gonna pull back from the scouting. I'm always gonna try to scout more and all these things. But I'm gonna make sure like I'm lining up my fall right now to where I can be more focused at that time. So
Yeah.
I'm doing my Western hunts. I'm doing 2 Western hunts in September. I'm taking most of September off, and then I'll be coming back to bear hunt and then hunt, and then exclusively be focused on the whitetails come late October and November. Which
Smart.
I should have
smart.
been doing that.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why
what
was
are you
I not
doing,
doing
man?
that? I know, but it's I think you also just need to like respect the game. It's like that deer's not going to be a guarantee, and you also need to know yourself. Like I'm not. Like I want a good representation of the animal. I'm an experienced guy. I'm not a trophy hunter. Like I take my PTO to hunt the West. Like if I was after one trophy whitetail, I'd take my vacation then. But it's like, make sure you know exactly what you want and then allocate your focus as like required, I
Yeah,
guess.
no,
That makes
that's
sense.
killer, man. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Hmm.
you're spot on there. I think it's just really like dictating the perfect time to hunt whatever you're hunting, right? Like
Right.
September is way more valuable for elk, and November is way more valuable for whitetails. It's all like, what do you got? Where's your time, and where can you put it in the right places to make yourself the most successful? So, yeah, man, that's killer. I mean, what's next on the list for you now? I mean, are you kind of you got any plans for what's your next state? You have any like bucket list states that you're knocking on the door of, or what?
Yep. So I have a pretty exciting 2024 or 2025. My 2024 was pretty jam packed, but excited for this fall as well. So it's going to be the Colorado draw is April 1st. I'm fairly confident I'm going to draw this mule deer tag with the points I got and everything. So I'm going to hunt high country mule deer beginning of September in Colorado, and then actually stay out there and link up with my buddy and hunt elk in Idaho. And I already
Nice,
have that tag locked down.
awesome.
Come back and
Are they
hunt.
both archery tags or what?
Yes. So this is
Okay,
all
yeah.
chasing them with a bow. So mule deer in Colorado, then bouncing right to Idaho for elk, and then coming back, and I'll be bear hunting in New Jersey. Did that last year. That was fun. And then hunt, obviously, my whitetails back here. So
Sweet. Heck yeah,
that's going
man.
to be, yeah.
I mean, you're not that far from Ohio, or is that just too much for you? Like with as far as traveling and whatnot. I mean, have you looked into like traveling out of state for whitetails, or are you more interested in the Western game now?
Yeah, so I've hunted Maryland a good bit on public. I whacked a doe there for 1 year. I've gotten on a couple good bucks,
Mhm.
but not putting in the time I know I need to consistently be successful there.
Yeah.
I've scouted around some pieces in Ohio, so I'm kicking around the idea of I just picked up a bunch more cameras of getting out to Ohio, this piece that I used to scout, just to hang cameras to let them soak
Yeah,
and
that's smart.
understand, yeah, that this is just future. This is just
Mhm.
intel for the future. Like, don't put pressure on myself to try to, like, I got 4 huge tags I want to fill.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like pencil that in for a fifth, and then
Yeah.
I'm
Do
really
you even
running
have enough
around.
freezer space for all this shit? I mean,
No,
like, what? Like,
I'll make it work. I got an elk this year, and my whitetail and my bear, and I got it all in my freezers. So
you're a
we'll
single
be good.
guy. I mean, good luck.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
am.
I'm sure you eat plenty of it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I know personally, like me and my family, we love eating elk, and I still got some from my trip 2 years ago. I
I've been
guess
putting a
2 years
hurting
now.
on it,
Yeah,
but no, it's good.
yeah, yeah, man. That to touch on that, that was. I feel like you went through a lot of crap on that hunt, didn't you? Like, so if I remember right, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like, so you were in Idaho, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Is that where you were?
So at a high level, here's kind of how 2024 rolled out, and it was just a wild experience. So my plan was to hunt Idaho mule deer with my bow um, by myself for 2 weeks in Idaho. So I had this tag driving out to Idaho, and there's these wildfires just popping up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I get out there, just me by myself, backpacking in, scout around for deer. Most of my unit is like closing because of these fires. And then the morning the opener, I pack down to the truck. My whole unit, I see like a map. It's all hashed out, closed.
Oh
And
no,
for
yeah,
anybody listening, I have hunt films on my YouTube channel. I just started this fall. So this story I'm telling is in reference to the film A Wild Turn of Events. So once I figured that out, I ended up going to Colorado, buying an over-the-counter elk tag just because I refused to go home.
right.
And then
That's what it was, and that's what I
that's
was
what it
wondering.
was.
Okay, because
And
I
then
was
I
like,
ended
dude, the
up,
determination was just killer. Like I loved it, and I remember being so hyped for you when you actually did kill one. I think you ended up killing a cow, right?
I killed a cow.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe just in an over-the-counter elk unit that I was having the stalks and getting on the elk and just having the experiences that I did, like running around with my bow at 12,000 feet. It was just an amazing experience. And I feel like I really could have arrowed a bull if my elk knowledge just didn't hold me back. Like,
Yeah.
it's not easy to stalk like in on these herds early season when all these cows and calves are like patrolling and like
Right.
all this stuff. And I've elk hunted with rifle for 2 years. This was my first time elk hunting with a bow. I think going forward too, that's going to be the game plan.
Yeah. Do you think it's
it.
easier bow hunting them? I mean, obviously, like when I say that, as far as like, I guess like the pressure and like, is it easy? You feel like it's easier to get on elk at that time?
I enjoy it more for sure. I actually feel like the rifle hunting gets a bad rep.
Okay.
Like people think, oh, rifle elk hunting, like, oh, it's easier. You got a rifle.
I mean, yeah, I know.
There's a reason why
Yeah.
the rifle season is end of October for elk. Dude, the bulls are not doing shit. They're by themselves. They're in these sanctuary areas. Like, it's hard as hell. So, like, yeah, of course, I had numerous times throughout the week archery hunting elk where I was like, oh, I wish I had my rifle. I could have killed 30 bulls.
Yeah.
But it's because it's the time of year. And then also in the rifle season, too, you're battling the elements. So I've done hunts where, dude, it's 0 degrees.
That's what I was going to get at, man. I mean, you're out there solo hunting in straight up some shit weather, like no way around it. I mean, in the snow, I mean, that's a whole nother level. I mean, when you talk about like whitetail hunting versus that, I know it's a whole nother realm, but doing it by yourself, I mean, how did you kind of prepare for that? Like, and maybe share like a bad story. Like, let's hear, because I know there had to be some wild shit that happened. I mean, you got mountain lions around there. You got bears. We were probably just black bears, right? Where you were at?
No grizz where I was at in Idaho.
I got you.
Other parts of Idaho, yes, but not where I was. But they had, So anyway, back to that story real quick. So I arrow that cow. I come home. Idaho Game and Fish said, your tag is still good for the rifle season, so you can come back.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Because because of what happened? Is that what it was?
Well, it's just a deer tag. You were allowed to just use it in any season. Versus their elk tags, every state's so different. Versus their elk tags, they have type A and B. A is archery, B is a rifle. But their Idaho deer tags, it just says deer. And you can hunt whenever. Yeah. So they said you could come back, keep an eye on the fires. The fires kind of seceded, but most of the unit was like burned. Or they said you can come back, but I was offered a refund. They said with all the fires and everything, we can give you a refund, or you can come hunt. Like, it's up to you. And I sat on it for a while, and I'm just like, I don't want to regret it. I'd rather bet on myself. So late October, I came home, bear hunted, arrowed a bear, literally came back home, took care of the bear, packed up my truck the next day, and then drove again by myself 33 hours to Idaho to now hunt these mule deer again.
Yeah.
So, so I get out there. Hunting mule deer late season is like really tough because their rut, you're not going to see any sign of like rutting activity till like maybe that end of that first week of November. Like not even like nothing, dude. Like not even like a seeking phase or like anything before. Like it's truly like the bucks are just kind of doing their own thing, like in the thick timber, solo.
Are they anywhere like similar? Like, was it relatable to whitetail hunting at all, or no?
I would say just not the rut, but it is interesting to watch them kind of be deer when you're glassing them. So at that time, I was glassing like a lot of does coming out to feed and fawns and stuff. But I've done other hunts, hunting mule deer like early season. And it is interesting to watch them out there because it's almost like you're watching deer be deer, but they're not in cover; they're in open country. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, I remember. So I went out in August in Colorado to scout a unit that I then hunted in October back in 2023. So mule deer, they almost paint the picture for you of like maybe it's a lot simpler than we're making it because you'll just see them kind of get up out of their beds when the sun kind of hits this face and they'll come out and feed here. and then it's like they'll just go right back to like the other bedding area, like in the shade as the sun kind of goes over the other way. And I'm
I
like,
gotcha.
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting to see kind of like that very simplified bed to feed like transitions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder like in the big woods, like if I'm overcomplicating it. Like I
Yeah.
wonder how like sometimes the travel pattern isn't that far from like
No.
that food source to that bed sometimes. So that was just something I took from it. But
I got you.
anyway, but that late October, so I was out there in Idaho hunting. So it was like the 21st through like 31st by myself. Yeah, what was tough was, so now you're fighting the weather. So the first couple of days weren't bad, but again, I have this on my YouTube too. It's called Fear. And this one kind of actually blew up. Like I just started the YouTube channel and I think this is at 16,000
That's awesome,
views.
man.
Yeah.
Sweet.
It was just starting blowing up and I'm like, I don't know what's happening here.
Hey.
But I got a ton of good feedback on comments and stuff. But anyway, yeah, by myself out there. First couple of days weren't bad, but the snow and the squalls were just relentless. And usually in the West, like the weather, like I found in Colorado late season, and you'll get snow, but everything's pretty dry. And that big mountain sun will kind of like warm you up a little bit throughout the day, maybe dry your stuff out. But there was days in Idaho, man, where it was like, it would just kept like snow, like squalling.
Yeah.
And it would be like that snow was wet and like it was just days after days where you're just wet and you're cold. And the feeling of it's one thing to like tough it out and all day sit to hunt whitetails, cold, wet, like rain, whatever. But know you're going to be at the truck in a few hours.
Right.
Or like
exactly.
you're going to sleep in your bed that night. Dude, like there's nothing. Like you look around like you're not getting warm. You're not getting dry. Like you're wet.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's some things you can do to like make your situation better, but it's tough. And especially by yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
multiple days,
fire, like, would you do, like, I mean, you weren't in, a canvas tent or anything. You were, like, popping your own tent on the mountain.
Yeah,
right?
So
Yeah.
I had a Hilleberg, which are good tents, but trying to light a fire and all that, everything's so wet in the snow. And also trying to get on deer, it's almost like not even worth it. Like if things were dry after a big snow, but sometimes it's like I definitely wasn't against it, but sometimes it's like, am I really going to screw around with this for this long when I'm trying to find deer? I don't know. It's sometimes it's tougher than you think, but and then there was multiple days where I didn't have cell service or anything, and being by yourself, those days are long. And with mule deer too, that time of year, like it's really just first and last light, man.
Right.
Trying to catch them coming out to feed.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a mental challenge.
Oh, absolutely. I can only imagine, man. I mean, and packing enough food with you. I mean, did you move your camp at all, like throughout the week or what?
So I did. So I've done hunts where like just backpacked in 3-4 miles and like hunted for 10 days. Like I've done that way. This hunt catered a little bit differently because there was a decent amount of access through the unit, like 2-track roads and stuff. And there was no water up high. And it snowed most days, but not every day. Because I got a lot of comments that said, so I had to pack in water and spike out every couple days. Some comments on the video is like, dude, just melt snow. And I'm like, well, most days it would snow all night and then burn off. And then I don't know if you've ever tried melting snow in your stove, but you're going to go through a lot of fuel. You need water first to do it.
Right.
And then, your yield isn't that great. And it's like, again, you kind of just got to weigh your options.
Yeah.
But with all the access I had, I knew I could kind of like go bounce for like 2-3 days, really dissect these like 2 basins, and then bomb out and then go somewhere else. It was just kind of how that unit catered to the hunt. And then, so it's a lot of glassing. And then I eventually got to the point where I was like, I'm going to try to still hunt through the timber because I was not seeing any good bucks like coming out, like out to feed. And the times I did that, it did work. But as you know, still hunting, it's like you got to have everything in your favor.
Oh,
the wind, the ground, like underbrush. Like you have to be, you're not really moving. Like you're more still. like
exactly. And
anything.
one of the
Yeah.
things like I was blown away with when I was out there was like, you would think the thermals would like be awesome, right? Because you're hunting this like steep country and you're like, okay, well, the sun's up, like it's got to be pulling. Dude, there was times in the morning where like our scent's just dropping down the mountain, you know? And I'm like, well, this is completely backwards to what I would imagine it be doing right now, you know, like what the hell? But I guess because like the coulees like down on that bottom, like they have such a draw that like if there isn't wind to change it, I mean it just sucks downhill even if you are on the top of a mountain. You know what I mean? I was just really like taken
Yep.
back by like the way that the wind currents and stuff are there. We were like getting screwed left and right when we would, you know, go to hike because we usually would go at the top of a mountain and go down in the morning, you know, when you're elk hunting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was blown away by that. Like, I mean, the wind currents there were kind of wild to me. And maybe it'd be totally different when it's snowing. I'm not sure, but did that mess with you at all?
I do feel like that's a factor too, like just because the ground and the environment's colder, and then obviously cover has a huge effect on thermals too, like how much cover is on that face. But you kind of like try your best. It feels like still hunting, you can do everything right, and it still doesn't work. Like I've done it successfully. Like the mule deer I killed in Colorado in 2023, I got him slipping through the timber at 50 yards, still hunting. But on this Idaho trip, yeah, two good bucks, one buck. His forks were just so deep. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I still think about that buck. But he was sub, I think I said in the video 75 yards, but the more I think about it, he was a lot closer than that. He was a stud, and he ended up coming out right below me, still hunting. But I bumped him, didn't get a shot, and then the same thing happened another day during the week.
Yeah.
But that was the only way I found some success there. And keep in mind, like, most of my unit like burned down. Like I was already
Yeah,
pinched down to an
exactly.
area. I was like,
Yeah.
this little area might still hold some deer. And then I was like fighting pressure too, because
Mm-hmm.
anybody hunting there was gonna hunt. So there was a lot against me, I'd say, but
Yeah.
I gave it absolute hell.
No, I mean, do you think you would have had more success had it been in September? Like, oh, sorry, man, I got an indigestion. A little bit
You're good.
earlier, like than that. I mean, in the year, like, was it that much harder? I mean, obviously, like early season versus late season, you know, you're going to have way less pressure, way less, you know, factors for you moving around, and it'd probably be a lot easier hunt on you physically too. I would imagine.
So it's always hard to say. I would say I was a little taken back about how the terrain laid out. If I was to go there and bow hunt it in September,
Mm-hmm.
might have been a little tougher, but their rifle season does go from, depends on the unit, but typically it's October 10th through the 31st.
Okay.
And what I did was I hunted the tail end of that. I was talking to my buddy that actually lives in Idaho, and he kills stud mule deer. Telling him everything I experienced and such. I said, you know, I think if I was to do it again, I'd probably hunt the beginning part of that October rifle season, because I still feel like the deer are less pressured. I mean, you got to think about elk hunters too.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
they're a little bit more chill, like in their summer September pattern a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was getting no benefits of the mule deer rut at that time, so it was like
Okay.
I might as well, and not dealing with the elements. If I
Right.
was there
Exactly. Well,
earlier
that was
October.
really my biggest takeaway. I'm like, man, that probably would have kept me from going back. If I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm a solo dude, nah, I'm sorry. Screw that. Like my hat's off to you for doing that, dude. That's pretty hardcore. And I mean, it sounds like I mean, that was like really a huge test. I mean, how can you not come out of that and have the confidence to be like, well, hey, if I find a giant whitetail and he's like 5 miles back on public, well, like, hell with it. I'm going to take my tent and we'll just make it happen. And I'll just make a trek in there, you know, in the morning and just camp out. I mean, have you ever thought about that? Like, you know, scenario based, like, hey, you know, how deep are you going on public land when you're hunting for your whitetails back home?
I like to go as far as I can, just because I don't want to deal with anybody else. And again, I truly would rather, if there's a booner right off the road versus I'm not trying to shoot anything small, but like a decent buck, like further in where I can get a good experience and not deal with any hassle. This might be like opposite of what most guys think, but I'd rather just go like get away from people and just hunt
you
that
just
deer.
enjoy the solitude.
That's just
of
me.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Because what I love to do too is like pack them out because I do everything by myself, public land, everything. Like I'm not going to call anybody for help. And where I hunt, the hill country is so steep. There are areas where it's like, I don't know how I'd drag that out if I wanted to drag it. And then I just like packing them out too.
No, it's cool. I love it. My first buck here in Kentucky was on public and we packed him out and I loved every second of it. It made me want to do more stuff like that. I was like, dude, this is insanely easy. You don't even need to gut it. And I don't have to deal with any mess. Like, why haven't I been doing this for years? Like,
I swear by this.
Yeah,
and then like if you're butchering it yourself when you get home,
exactly.
Like, a lot of your work's done.
I just get the
I
comes
pack
apart.
out everything now.
Yeah,
the bear, I skin my bear and just pack that out. Like done. Like
whatever. Why not, man? What's your system that you're using? What's your mobile hunt setup?
Yep. So I have the Lone Wolf .5. Really like that setup. It's super light, and I found I really enjoy my Kafaru frame pack. So I have a bigger bag, like 6,500 cubic inch that I take out west.
Okay.
But I use the same frame, and I have the smaller like 2,000 cubic inch. It's the Striker XL bag, and I'll use that to mobile hunt whitetails. And I'll put that .5 in my sticks, kind of like right in the meat shelf.
Okay.
And then everything I need in the bag, and I love it. And then that way, like I'm pretty sure. Like the animals I'll take, like I can pack out that stand, which is nothing.
Yeah.
The whole animal and everything in one load if I need to. So I love it.
What are you doing with your frame pack and stuff though? Like when you get to your tree, like are you kind of ditching it before you get to your spot, or you leave it at the base of the tree, or what?
No, so I'll pull it up. So I'll climb my sticks, get set up, and then I'll have my lineman, like two linemen, like one on my harness, like to get me up, and then my safety like rope.
Your tether.
And then when I get up there, I'll carry up my backpack when I get up there, and I'll just clip that onto, like I'm clipping myself onto the safety rope, but then I'll just keep that lineman around the tree.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just clip the bag on
to
there,
your tether.
so it's just up there with me. And I don't know. I try to just make sure I'm quiet with my buckles.
Yeah,
but
I was just curious.
It screwed me up.
I was curious. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys I've used this stand to pack a deer out, and it's like I just wouldn't want. For me personally, I guess like as a minimalist, like whatever. And I'm also not going over 2 miles in on public, so like I have my frame pack. Usually, I just keep it in the truck, and I'm like, well, if I kill one, like I'll just go back to the truck and then whatever, and come back with the frame pack. But I mean, I can imagine in your scenario, like I wouldn't want to make multiple trips if I was back there,
Yeah. And sometimes I'm further than others. It's just like, this is my system. And it's like, I'm just,
no. Why not,
I'm
man?
using it. But
and it's good training for what you're doing too. I mean,
I could definitely make it more minimal, but I don't feel like that's what's holding me back.
No, dude. As long as you're doing what you need to do, like whatever. That's one thing. People are over opinionated about that. It's like, my setup's like 13 pounds and 4. Like, dude, I don't care what your setup weighs. Like, are you happy with it? And can you get it back to where you're going?
That's it.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, are you getting after deer or not? Like,
right. I'm just
whatever you can do to do it. Yeah, exactly, man. No, I like that. It's amazing to me how many people have adapted the .5 for like deep woods public land. Did you go with a standard seat, or did you get a larger seat?
I got the standard seat. I'm a smaller guy.
I got you.
That's all I needed. Yeah,
I got you.
No, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I upgraded my seat. I like it a little bit bigger. I like having a little more ass room. I don't know.
There you
Just
go.
me
There
personally, but yeah, yeah, man. So when you're going out and hunting public and stuff, like what's some of your tactics? Are you not using cameras? Are you using cameras? Are you scrape hunting? Like, what's some of your favorite ways to kind of like manipulate deer?
Yeah, so I do run cameras. I found that the magic is not in the cameras. Like I've definitely found myself early on in the public like chasing what the cameras were showing me, and that's not that's not their intent.
No.
Definitely, as I've gotten more intel on them over the years, it just kind of gave me clues about what kind of hunting I need to be doing at a certain time of year. So I really, where I'm at, I found early season. I don't have a ton of oaks where I'm at, but some that I do have. I found a few spots where, like I said before, they're right on the edge of. I have these big power lines and gas lines and cuts, and like if I can, I'll find rubs and maybe some scrapes, kind of like leading out of these staging areas from usually thick bedding.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some success getting on deer in those scenarios early season, just hunting on that secondary food source kind of deal. And then just over time, finding more and more spots of where does typically like to hang out. That's all I did this past fall. I hunted on a shelf where I knew does were like to be bedding. And sure enough, this buck came cruising through. Scrapes, I mean, I'll sit scrapes throughout October, but I found my better times are like nothing's going to compare to like that first week in November.
Yeah.
Typically, if the weather is right.
So you tend to like do a little bit more rut hunting. You would say like you would, not to put you in a category, but I mean like for me personally, like I would say I'm more of a rut hunter than a early season hunter.
Yeah, I would say because also too, I've always just had a knack for. I feel like everybody's kind of got to like leverage a little bit what they're like maybe called to a little bit more, and for me, it's like terrain.
Okay.
So really dissecting terrain and maps and looking for like those different terrain features and funnels and things like that. I just feel like when I'm out there, I'm a lot more confident in like seeing how the terrain lays out and how deer might move through versus trying to always find that weird, different secondary food source kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can really like it. Like not to discount anybody that does that, or I think it's just it comes with time and knowledge and stuff. But I have a hard time. Like I've had multiple people ask me like, "Oh, what are they? What's their secondary food?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know. I'm more of like an observer. Not like I feel like you've got like different nerdy levels of like whitetail hunters and like who is like that's a black oak or this is this one this one like that is good knowledge to have. That's one of my goals this year was to learn a lot more about like, trees and, that kind of stuff. But I don't know, like you had to touch on your point with like kind of knowing where you're at and like what you capitalize more on. Mm-hmm. Terrain to me has always been like such an easy place. It's like, all right, here's a good funnel. Here's bedding. Here's doe bedding. There's another doe bedding area. I'm going to get in the middle of this and like whatever,
and sit there and just trust it and trust yourself.
Well, it's more or less like even for me, it's like I can throw a sit at something, and then even if I'm not in the chips and I see something happen, okay, well I'll go adjust, and that's like just how I've always gone about it. Or I'll just go bounce around until I run into something and then go from there. I mean, every scenario is different. I feel like where you're at in PA, it's a very challenging. Like you really do have to have a lot more woodsmanship to be consistently successful on public where you are.
It's really tough. My deer don't get like there's not a bunch of old deer. Like a good 2.5-year-old buck, like a typical 2.5-year-old is like a really good deer. I've hunted like northern PA. My cousins have a camp up there. We go up there for like first day of rifle. Usually we're tagged out like in archery. Maybe we'll just go up there and shoot does or whatever. But I found up there in the big woods, though, like I feel like I have a lot more, and I don't know this for a fact, but this is just observing. I feel like I see a lot more deer where I'm at, but and more sign as far as tracks and things like that. But as far as like the big scrapes, the big car hood scrapes, like just laying down big sign, I find that up in like the northern PA big woods a lot more. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's because like that's just their behavior, or there is. I mean, I know there's older, bigger deer there,
It's probably the
but
age structure, I think.
it's got to
I've
be.
always heard that like,
Yeah.
what is it? Like the, 3-year-olds and older really lay down more sign, than young bucks do. I don't
Hmm.
know if it's the testosterone or whatever, where they're at.
And I'll find like even more of those scrapes. Like you could actually like really like I might be up there like just looking to whack a doe or whatever, but it's just fun to kind of like
Yeah,
learn more about
absolutely.
deer.
You're still going to
You can
look for
really
sign,
right, yeah.
while you're hunting.
So it's like you can really find like kind of like those secondary scrapes coming off like a good trail, and then maybe like leading into like a primary scrape, and then kind of like but like kind of like where I'm at in southwestern PA, it's like I'm gonna find probably an area of like a decent sized looking branch on a scrape, and then maybe just some areas around it that are like pawed up. And yeah, it's not the big woods sign I see up north, but it
I
still
got
makes
you.
it fun because I do feel like if I was bow hunting up north, I wouldn't see as many deer. I'd probably get on bigger bucks,
Yeah,
but I do see more deer, and I get into more action down where I'm at.
I
And
got you.
yeah,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
man. I think it's like a little
And they're still good
easier.
bucks. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, dude,
yeah,
it's all relevant. Like, I don't
uh-huh.
care what anybody kills, man. Like, are you having fun? And like,
Yeah.
are you really like enjoying what you're doing? Like, that's honestly at the end of the day, that's what hunting's all about.
Mm-hmm.
I do this to try to help people, whatever stage they're at, just gain some knowledge and pick the mindsets of guys like yourself. And man, with this one, I feel like my goal kind of with having you on here was to one, like inspire other people to really want to push it and do more Western hunts, and kind of like just shed light on the mindset that like goes into it. And I think you touched on it a little bit more in the beginning, where, you're always pushing yourself and you're consistently like looking for that next thing to like elevate your skill and grow as a person and a hunter. And, I wanted to maybe get a good story out of you. Like, where's there like a point where you really kind of like step back and recognize like, the fruits of your labor for, going out west and pushing yourself in that sense of things?
Yeah. I think I do want to maybe help inspire the listener to go out there on their first trip. Um, just a nugget that I've learned that I'll share is like, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to hunt the West, but if you want to do what some of these guys on YouTube are doing, like the 7, 8, 9, 10 day backpacking in, do it. Like I am never gonna like say somebody can't or you shouldn't or whatever, but just understand that like what you're about to go do is like a long, hard process. And for me, I'm not saying you have to run ultra marathons to go elk hunting, but I mentioned that that's what I do, and they prepare me a lot more mentally than physically. Reason being, an ultra marathon is a long, hard process where you're just uncomfortable for a long time. And that's very similar to a 10-day elk hunt.
Yeah.
And I just feel like a lot of guys maybe want to go do that, but they don't have, it's really, I mean, you call it mental toughness, call it whatever you want, but it's really patience.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have moments where, it's day 3 and you've never been this exhausted and like you don't have water. Like you've never experienced like not being able to just get water, or like you're cold at night and like you're not just going to get warm. Like there's nowhere to go. Like what are you going to do? Like
Yeah.
you're 3-4 miles in. Like so just try to get comfortable doing hard things.
Yeah.
It's helped me in all aspects of my life, and it's something that I will continue to do. And it's made me grow, not just as a hunter, not just as like a brother, but also just like, as a man and in life, I think. So,
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
I think as a good moment where it has all come together. I mean, I've been able to punch a couple tags now in the West, but I don't know, dude. It was pretty special. I hate saying like, oh, I was just a cow, because I know that's me, just like my ego or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
because I want to kill a big bull, like how everybody seems to be doing on Instagram too. But Yeah, dude, I definitely took a moment. I was by myself, 4 miles in, at 12,000 feet in this basin with 30 elk, all these bulls screaming in this creek bottom. And I drew back on. Uh, I was getting my butt kicked. I was having a hell of a time, but I was like, I'm arrowing a cow. Like
Yeah.
these bulls were down below him, and if I took another step, I was going to get busted. But I had this cow at 69 yards, and I'm just by myself, dude. And I was in. It looked like a Bob Ross painting. This
Yeah.
basin I was in,
Oh, that's awesome.
12,000 feet by myself. I come at full draw at, hunting the West too. It's that open country, and elk are so big.
Yeah.
I saw her, and I was like, oh, 50, 53.
No, yeah,
Range
dude, I remember that. My
69,
buddy,
and
he grilled me. He's like, dude, whatever you do not just wing like a shot thinking that it's a 20-yard shot. He's like, range everything. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
Luckily, I had some time and everything, and I ranged her, and I was just like, well, I know, like, you just, dude, I don't know. I'm big on just like visualization and the mindset and the confidence. And I'm like, this arrow is going in the pump house. Like, I got it. So I just settled that pin. I let that arrow go. She ran. I didn't have a blood trail, dude. She ran 20 yards and rolled right over.
Oh man, that's sick.
And I'm like looking around, and like I look up to God, and I'm just like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like all these elk like blow out, and I have this massive like matriarch cow, and I spent 2.5 days packing her out by myself.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was running another ultra marathon. It was,
I'm sure,
insane. But I got all the meat out, and like the confidence that gives you, dude. Like I never try to sound like I post what I do and the training, all these things, and I try to never sound cocky. But like I think it's important for people to like go out and do these things because the confidence, like something like that, can give you like 100%. In your life.
Oh, dude. Well, and I mean, like,
amazing.
And I'm sure you can relate to this, but the first time you drive out there and then you look at a mountain and you're like, holy shit, I'm going to be hunting this. Like, you can look at all, if you've never been out there, guys, like, you can look at all the video and all the pictures that you want to. Nothing justifies, like, when you're a person and you feel like an ant on a mountain. And, like, I mean, you're just looking up and up and up, and you're like, it might take you an entire day just to come down one of these. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It's insane, like the depth of this. And then to hunt and then go through it, and you're like, it makes you realize how much you're capable of. Is I feel like all of us really do sell ourselves short on like our capabilities, right? Like, I'm sure you can relate to that when you started doing those hunts and like marathons and everything. And that's really my goal with it, man. Like, I just want people to experience life, and like, whitetails are awesome, but I mean, elk and Western hunting is something that I feel like every hunter should experience. And if you're a younger guy, even more the reason to do it. Like, dude, whatever you got to do, make it happen. Like, the money thing, it is what it is. I mean, we've had plenty of guests on here that do elk hunts too, and we tried not to go down the whole rabbit hole with that, with the finances and stuff. But, you're only here for so long. You don't know how long it's going to be. And, like the age old saying of like, sometimes you put off stuff and then it never happens. It is what it is, but plan that trip. Weston, it's been a pleasure having you, man. I've really enjoyed this one. I'm going to ask you one final question before we close out here. And that is, we kind of touched on it a little bit before with like, our lessons from failure, but like, what's one of your failures as a bow hunter that has really made you more of a successful hunter?
Oh,
man, I didn't mean to put you on the spot that bad.
No, you're good. Just one. I will say
maybe one that just really sticks out to you, though, like maybe a light bulb moment, like when you were younger or something, whether it's like practice or whatever.
Yeah, that first year I went elk hunting, it was with a rifle, but I consider myself mostly a bow hunter now. Purely just bow hunter now. Dude, it's crazy. Like that first elk hunt where like it made me sick coming home, not punching a tag and being like everybody else, like you're in that same bucket of people of the 90%, that aren't successful in a Western hunt. And you're in that same bucket of the same guys who all say the same thing. Yeah, we tried hard, but just didn't get on them. And like I saw elk, and I had a couple chances at like good bulls, and like people just didn't like. I just wanted to like tell people like, you don't know, I was so close. Like it just drove me nuts, and I wanted that success so bad, and I didn't punch the tag.
Yeah.
But it lit like this whole fire in me, and it's changed my whole direction of really my life. Like my fitness went to the next level. Like like I said, adopted more of a growth mindset where I'm like, what more can I learn? Like those books back here, like a lot of these are like about elk and deer, and then also just about mindset and discipline and stuff. And like just constantly like being now a student, and it just lit the most insane fire to be successful. And so it's not really one moment, but it's just that failure of not punching the tag the first time. And then since it's changed my life, like in all these positive ways, and now I've started to find some success because it's given me the activation energy to work 10 times harder year in and year out. Now it's funny because you have to like look back and be like, I'm almost grateful for like not punching that tag the first year. Because that first year, if I would have came home with like a 5x6,
you've been like, oh man, this is easy. Like,
that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Whatever effort I put into that point for that trip, that's what would have been my standard.
Right.
But that wouldn't have been enough to be consistent, obviously. And
no, that's epic, dude. It's fire. So, I love it. That's a great response.
Yeah.
It's probably the most like frequently asked question that I ask my guests at the end of a podcast, and I always love hearing all the different responses. So that one hit the nail on the head, man. I really enjoyed that.
You're never you only lose if you quit. If you fail, it's just another opportunity to learn. So you just keep learning, and you keep trying, and you just keep coming back. And it's not a finite game we're playing. It's an infinite game.
That's right. Amen, dude.
Yep.
Well, brother, thank you so much. What's your YouTube channel? I want to get some of our listeners over there to subscribe to you.
Yep. So the YouTube, it's just my name. It's Weston Homa. I started with just all my hunts. So you can watch my Colorado elk hunt, my Idaho mule deer hunt, my bear hunt, and then my whitetail buck from 2024. And then I started also sharing more about just other things I do, like just some scouting videos. And I'm going to share a lot of some fitness stuff. And then also how I prepare for these big Western hunts. And then doing these big marathons and ultras, like I'm going to share a little bit of that too. All encapsulating though, just, adopting more of a growth mindset and preparing for these big adventures. So it's a lot of content like that. And then I'm also pretty active on Instagram. Again, it's just at Weston Homa, and Facebook too.
Yeah, we'll be sure to tag you and hopefully collab with you on this one, and everybody can get to follow you. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, dude. Well, Wes, I really appreciate this, man. It's been an absolute blast. Look forward to having you on again sometime down the road. And yeah, we'll catch up with you all next week. Appreciate you guys tuning in.
For sure, brother. Thanks.
Yes, sir.